Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jordan and thank you so much for clicking on one of my bookish videos. Today I'm so excited because I'm going to be filming my summer book recommendation video in the middle of June, just in time for summer to start, just in time for vacation reading. I have an absolutely stacked list of recommendations for this time of year. If you are interested in seeing me talk about my summer book recommendations, then keep on watching. Okay, so we are going to start this video off with none other than Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. This is her newest release. It was just released at the end of May, and this is another adult romance book from Ali. This is featuring an age gap trope, which I think Ali did so well. It's not one of my favorite tropes to begin with, but I think that the way that she handled it in this book was really well done. If you don't know anything about this book or Ali's books, the characters in this book, Maya and Connor, are characters that were in her book Not in Love. Maya is Eli, the male main character in Not in Love's little sister, and Connor is Eli's best friend. And in this book, these characters go to Italy for Rue and Eli's wedding. You find out that Maya and Connor have been best friends for a while. They kind of discovered each other in their adulthood once Maya grew up and was no longer like the brother's annoying younger sister. And they have not spoken for about 10 months. And in this book, they see each other again for the first time in Italy for the wedding. And you just get to see Maya's inner dialogue and her insecurities about her relationship with Connor and how much she loves him. And I just had the most fun reading this book. It made me want to go to Italy so bad, and it just feels so perfect for a fun summer vacation read. Okay, next we have, dare I say, my favorite romance book of the year, and that is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is another like interconnected book. Technically, it follows up with one of the characters from her first book, Every Summer After. Charlie, the main character in this book, is Sam from the first book's older brother. And you did get to see Charlie a bit in that book, but let me tell you, even if you have negative feelings towards Charlie after reading Every Summer After, you are going to love this man after reading this book. In this book, you learn about Alice and Charlie. Alice is a photographer. She's feeling really burnt out from her career, and she goes to Barry's Bay, to the lake, for the summer with her grandmother, where she meets Charlie, who's looking after the house. And you learn a lot about Charlie's childhood and all of the trauma and things that he went through, which kind of made him the way that he was. This is just like a true love story. The relationship and the friendship between Alice and Charlie is everything I want in a romance and relationship, and I cannot wait to reread this myself when I'm on vacation this summer. Next, we have another romance book, and that is Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. This is the third and final book in the Skyland series, and this follows Hendrix and Maverick. Hendrix is the final female main character from this friend group of females that the series is about, and Hendrix is someone who has always been very independent, sexy, flirty, kind of just does what she wants. And in this book, she's dealing with a lot because her mother has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and is deteriorating, and Hendrix is dealing with the difficulties of trying to figure out if she needs to move back home to take care of her mother. And she meets Maverick, who is her business partner's ex-boyfriend. I just loved the relationship and the chemistry in this book. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed Hendrix's character, and I thought it was a brilliant finish to this series. Next, I'm going to shout out two books by the same author, and I feel like everyone knows about them at this point, but I'll say it anyway. My ultimate summer read will always be Betread by Emily Henry. I love this book so much. It was the book that basically got me into romance in my adult years of reading. This follows January and Gus, who are two authors kind of competing in this small town. They have like a fake kind of like enemies, type of relationship. This is the blueprint for romance books. I truly believe that. It is just enemies to lovers, friendship, polar opposites, this chemistry, this like very beautiful and moving writing and description of love and different emotions. And I try to reread this basically every year during the summer because I just love it that much. And then I'm going back on my word. In my spring book recommendations video, I recommended Happy Place by Emily Henry. Well, let me tell you, I'm currently rereading this book for the first time, and I don't know what feels more summer. This is how I picture summer in a book. In this book, Harriet and Wynne are 5 months into a breakup after being together for 10 years, and them and their group of best friends goes to Knott's Harbor, Maine for a final like summer vacation together where they see each other again for the first time. And in this entire book, you're rehashing all of their memories and their friends' memories together over the years. But the setting of this book in Maine, as someone who grew up going to Maine occasionally for summer vacation, is just perfect. And I love this book so much. So I definitely would recommend it for a summer read. Okay, next we are going to show a fantasy book recommendation for something a little bit different. And this I think feels right to recommend for this season because of when it was released. And that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This was just released at the beginning of June. It is about toxic lesbian vampires. And again, while vampires would normally for me feel very fall, like fall vibes, I think this book is so fun for a summer read. It follows 3 main characters, female main characters who are turned into vampires. They live in 3 different periods of time, and they all have a lot of anger and resentment and hunger and obsession and love for each other and other women and towards other humans. And throughout the book, they become intertwined and meet each other in different time periods and influence each other's lives. It's just so much fun. Like, this is like the vampire book for the summer. I cannot rave about this book enough. I love it so much. Okay, next I have another romance book recommendation, and that is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is, I believe, the second book in this series. I don't know, honestly, what this series is called, but I have not read the first book in the series. I'm not gonna lie. I actually just picked this book up. I wanted to read it for Pride Month because the main character, Dani Brown, is bisexual. I absolutely love this book. It is following Dani Brown and Zaf, and Zaf is like this retired former pro rugby player who's like this big name, but he retired very suddenly and has kind of disappeared from the public eye. And Dani is a PhD student, and they kind of work together, and basically they go viral for like a little moment caught on video, and they decide to fake their relationship for Zaf's like charity so that it gets more attention. This book is just so full of chemistry, very fun, very spicy moments, but I just loved it. I had so much fun reading it, and the representation in this book is fantastic. When summer comes, since I was the age, I think 11 or 12, there's only one series that I want to read, and that is, of course, The Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. This is, I think, my favorite young adult series of all time, and it genuinely is like one of my all-time favorite series. I've reread it so many times. It hits so different in the summer, and if you are looking to catch up before the final season of The Summer I Turned Pretty comes out this summer, you can read the series very quickly. They're very bingeable, and pick up the very beautiful and fun Amazon Prime show cover for We'll Always Have Summer. I'm currently rereading the series right now, and just reading it and being back with these characters and seeing the scenes be detailed and portrayed exactly in the show, the iconic scenes from the book, nothing is better in this world, I'm telling you. If you don't know what the series is about, it is about Belly, who is this like teenage girl growing up. She has grown up with these 2 Fisher brothers. She has always been in love with Conrad since she was a kid, and then over time as she grows up and they kind of start to recognize her more, she starts to develop some feelings for the other brother, Jeremiah, as her relationship relationship with Conrad gets very tumultuous, and it is just the best summer vibes. Like, there is literally nothing better than binging this book by the pool, by the beach, by the lake, and I cannot recommend this series enough. Another relatively recent romance book that has been released is Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt. This was gifted to me by St. Martin Press, so thank you very much to them. This is a second chance romance, a divorced couple, best friends who were like literally best friends since their youth. Ren got pregnant very early out of high school, and they've been together from before that and ever since until they got divorced, I think about a year ago in this book. And in this book, they have to come back together and be alone together for the first time in quite a few months for their son's dropping him off at college trip. They go on a road trip together where Ellis is determined to try and rekindle their relationship and remind Ren of the happy moments together and why they should be together. This book was just so deeply emotional. It was so beautifully written. Ellis and a mustache kind of made me love men with mustaches. So, okay, next I have like a literary fiction, historical fiction, partially romance book, and that is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This also was just released. It is her newest release. I will say, out of all of her books recently, I do feel like this leans the most romance. It is definitely a love story. You have Joan and Vanessa, and Joan is one of the first NASA female astronauts. So this book is set in the 1980s during NASA's space shuttle program, which was just so fascinating to learn about. As always, Taylor Jenkins Reid kills it with the historical fiction. In this book, Joan has been working her whole life to be this like astrophysicist, and she gets picked up by NASA to be part of the space shuttle program, where she becomes very close to her team of astronauts competing for the first spots to go into space. Joan starts to, throughout this book, fall in love with one of her teammates, Vanessa, at a time where, certainly at least by NASA, same-sex relationships, queer relationships was sanctioned and not allowed. And so this entire book really is Joan's self-development and figuring out what she wants in life, what she sees herself doing, and the relationships that are important to her. Just kind of finding herself and finding who she identifies as. I cried so many times throughout this book. It was so beautiful. I really connected with Joan's character. I just feel like I learned so much, again, from being in a different decade in history. A romance book that is not yet out, but will be out, I believe, July 8th or sometime at the beginning of July, is Love is a War Song by Danica Nava. Danica Nava is the author of The Truth About Ember, I believe that's what it's called, and Love is a War Song is an adult romance book. It basically is best explained as like Hannah Montana the movie, but with Native American representation. I loved it. Like, I had the best time reading it. It just made me feel so nostalgic for Hannah Montana, while also just loving a new way of writing and reading cowboy romances, which are so popular right now. So the book basically follows the main character, who is this like very, viral pop star, and she gets canceled by like the Native American community, among others, for incorporating Native American clothing and culture in an offensive way in her music. And so she's forced to like leave the spotlight, go to her estranged family's farm with her Native American relatives and like learn from them. And it follows so closely the plot of Hannah Montana the movie, but I honestly did not mind. It felt really fresh. The perspective of the main character, and then incorporating like the challenges of not really knowing where you're from, figuring out your culture and your heritage, cancel culture, learning from your mistakes. It was fantastic. So definitely check it out when it comes out in July. Okay, I have a few more books. So next I have Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This came out in the spring, and this copy was gifted to me by William Morrow and HarperCollins, so thank you very much to them. This is Alex Astor's romance debut, and specifically her adult romance debut, and and I absolutely loved it. It is set in New York City in the summertime. It's following the female main character who's like a screenplay writer, and she really has been struggling with her career to like find inspiration. So they send her to New York City for the summer to try and get inspiration to write her next screenplay for like a romance. And while she's there, she moves in next door to her neighbor, who is someone that she met a few years ago, hooked up with one night, had a terrible interaction with him, and has low-key been obsessed with him since. And I just love this. Like, this was enemies to lovers. Alex Astor writes romance in such a fun way. I really enjoyed the New York setting and incorporating all the different like New York City spots, the popular ones, and then the little hidden gems. It's short, it's sweet, and it's perfect for the summertime. Okay, for you literary fiction lovers, I have a newer literary fiction book that was released, I think in May, and that is The Original Daughter by Jemiah Wei. This is essentially following this Chinese Singapore family, and it's following this girl who growing up was the only child in her family, and then one day, I think it's like her distant cousin or something is basically dropped off, and her family adopts this girl as her younger sister. And so at the beginning of the book, you get to see the dynamics of these two growing up. They were like two peas in a pod. They loved each other. They were obsessed with each other. And then the younger sister basically like becomes famous, becomes this actress on YouTube, and then starts starring in movies, while the older daughter, the original daughter, is really struggling as someone who was very gifted and academically talented growing up, but is struggling in her career and to find like a meaningful job. And so you kind of see the dynamics of them two and the tension that forms to the point where they have a falling out and they don't speak for years until their mother is dying of cancer. This book was so well written. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really related to the older sister, and I just really enjoyed learning about these characters, these flawed characters, and their relationships. Okay, next I have Rose and Chains by Julie Soto. This is also releasing in July, I believe on July 8th, and this is the first in a new romantasy series from Julie Soto. This book is so good. I was gifted it by Forever Publishing, so thank you very much to them. This is an enemies to lovers romantasy series, and in this first book you get a lot of world building. I definitely would say the pace is relatively slow. It is definitely a slow burn. It follows Bryony and Tovin, who are two elite members of two different kingdoms. Bryony comes from a kingdom that really focuses on mind magic, being able to see into other people's minds, and Tovin comes from a kingdom that has heartstring magic, where they can like use other people's hearts to lift up their power. And in this book, at the very beginning, you find out that basically Bryony's side has completely lost. Her brother's killed, her family's killed, and she is taken into essentially slavery for Tovin's kingdom. And throughout this book, you get a lot of flashbacks of Bryony and Tovin, who very clearly had a crush on each other growing up in school together. And you just learn so much from Bryony's point of view as she's starting to figure out why Tovin wanted her and why he is treating her so well in the midst of this war. I just love this first book. I love the world that Julie Soto is building, and I'm really, really interested to see where the rest of the series is going. Okay, last but not least, I have another fantasy book, and that is Catabases by R.F. Kong that releases, I think, in the middle of August. So I definitely think this is a very good like end of the summer into fall vibes. This arc was gifted to me by Harper Voyager, so thank you very much to them. Catabases is R.F. Kong's highly anticipated new book. Basically, the best way I would describe it is it's two academic people, two like PhD students at Cambridge, who are taking a descent into hell to find their professor that has been stolen away from them. And so the entire book is literally Alice and Peter traveling through hell, through these different parts of hell, and really incorporating different mythology and philosophy on what hell is and what it stands for and represents, as they are kind of figuring out their relationship and friendship. And Alice is working through a lot of things related to her professor, and I am only halfway through right now, but I'm really enjoying it. I think it is so cool the way that R F Kong is like pulling in all these references to hell throughout history and the way that she's describing it. And I think the idea of the descent into hell and all of the different layers is such a cool concept. It definitely reminds me a lot of kind of like the dark academia fantasy vibes of Babel. I will say that's what it leans the most towards. And I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this one when it comes out in August. All right, so that is it for this summer book recommendations video. I hope that you can take away something that seems interesting to you that you would enjoy from this video. I tried to incorporate a bunch of romance books, but also some fantasy, some literary fiction. I feel like lately we just have had one amazing release after the other, and this summer there's also a lot of really great books that are coming out, especially in July and August, and I'm super excited about. So these are all of my favorite books that I highly recommend. I would love to know what your summer book recommendation is for this year that I should check out or others should check out. And as always, if you enjoyed watching this video, I would love if you subscribe for more bookish videos from me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!